If you are drawn to a dark aesthetic, is wearing all black head to toe the only way to convey a dark style? So in today's video, we are going to be going over different inspirations that actually showcase much more vibrant hues that still have darker themes and darker style, focusing on dark aesthetics in color. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Melissa, and if you are not new here, welcome back. I'm sorry, it's been a really long time since I posted my last video. There's just been a lot going on in life. I often get requested to do more color season videos because there are so many of you who are spring or summer or a light autumn variation, or you just don't want to feel constricted to wearing all black, which is understandable. And you want to know how to incorporate color into your wardrobe, but still have a dark aesthetic. And there are still so many ways to go about it. So I have compiled a lot of different inspiration that we can go over. Okay, let's talk about the color red. Now, even though I don't wear a lot of color, I actually think this is the most colorful thing in my wardrobe. I actually really do heavily rely on red lipstick whenever it comes to my portrayal of a dark aesthetic. I don't wear a lot of makeup, but even just wearing red lipstick really conveys this message. And the reason why I think it is, red already has this strong association with the occult as well as vampiric styles. I think there's the obvious reason for this, where red is associated with blood, sometimes bad omens, horror movies, punk subculture, and so many other reasons that red has this dark aesthetic already attached to it. So some of the easiest inspirations is literally looking at movies such as Bram Stoker's Dracula or Crimson Peak. Or whenever you look at runway, look at the more grungier styles, or even look at the cinematography in horror movies. And even burlesque shows is another great inspiration for this. My muse for red, I want to talk about my friend Yvette from Backstitch Bruja. If you are familiar with any of my coffin bags, that's Backstitch Bruja. She does not shy away from color, especially the color red, as we see in her hair and some of the outfits that she wears. But whenever it comes to the bags that she sells and designs, she doesn't shy away from any vibrant color, as we see in some of her coffin bags, or even if you go on her website, which I encourage you to do so. If you are wearing red and you want to convey a dark aesthetic, remember that it has already an association with vampiric and occult motifs. So lean into that. Be a little obvious. I think it's okay to be a little cliche. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, actually. When it comes to red makeup or red lipstick, going matte and more saturated is actually going to feel a little darker than more sheer reds. Sheer reds tend to have a tendency to look a bit more natural, and fabrics makes a difference. Think of red lace and red latex. Let's talk about orange. Now, when it comes to orange, it's not my personal go-to color. I don't think it complements me very well. I was thinking, what does orange already have a strong association with that is dark, maybe spooky, maybe alternative? Halloween, duh. And the autumnal feel and season in general. If you think of orange in different ways, there are actually so many ways to go about orange in a dark or alternative way. If you go for a neon, very saturated look, especially in the hair, you're gonna give off a more punk-inspired aesthetic. Or even just wearing orange vibrant hair already has an alternative look to it. Also, don't forget that orange is found in some animal print that already has a strong association with alternative styles, such as cheetah, leopard, tiger. And if you decide to go for a more natural orange hue, you can still style this in a way that has a dark look, such as apocalyptic fashion that I mentioned in a previous video of mine. For the muse, I want to talk about the brand Lively Ghost. Actually, one of my coffin bags is a collaboration with Backstitch Bruja and Lively Ghost, and you can tell by their signature jack-o'-lantern face. They exponentially use orange a lot in their styles and their looks. And as you can see in this backpack, which has my friend Kylie in it, they really lean into this idea of orange being this Halloween color. And if you're wearing orange and it doesn't feel dark enough, really bring back to this idea of it being a fall hue and the dark themes associated with it. You can also go for a much more cyberpunk and futuristic feel to it by going for a bright, punchy orange And if you decide to go for a more brown, subdued orange, you can style it in an apocalyptic style fashion, whether it's steampunk or the styles that we see in sci-fi movies such as Star Wars or Dune. I found yellow to be even more difficult to style in a dark way, even more so than orange, because at least orange had the whole Halloween and pumpkin association with it. But when it comes to yellow, even though it is considered one of the autumnal colors, like whenever I wear yellow, I look like Gudetama. And I love him, but I don't want to look like him. And it doesn't have that dark aesthetic that I aim for. But the more research I did, the more I found inspiration where you can actually, if you want to, have yellow be styled in an alternative way. If you think about yellow in a very saturated hue, whether it's in your hair or in your garments, you can take inspiration from the clothing and styles of cybergoths or what was done in punk subculture. It's also intention and how you style it. How you style it can go a really long way. Designers such as Betsy Johnson that we see in one of my bottom images here, she took a lot of inspiration from the punk subculture. So we see a lot of colors like yellow seep into her designs. And if you aim for yellow to be less of an egg yolk preppy color, you can actually go for it, and in a good way, an almost unhinged style, such as what Angelina sports in Girl Interrupted. I love this movie, and it is heartbreaking, but if we look at the colors associated with Angelina Jolie's colors, she actually does wear yellow, and it is actually done so in a very unsettling way. And like orange, there is a more natural hue to it, such as we see in the bottom right. If you go for a whimsigoth aesthetic, there are beautiful ways to implement yellow into your style. And for my muse, I'm going to be showing Suzy Sue. I know I talk about her a lot, but I love her music, and she is an iconic goth musician. And if she wears yellow, I think you as a goth can wear yellow. She wears yellow in a very electric way. I think yellow was very much done exponentially in the 80s, and that's another great way to go about yellow. When it comes to yellow, if it doesn't feel dark enough, think of it in a futuristic manner, whether it's the 80s or cyberpunk fashion. You can also go for a more earthy yellow so that it has a more witchy or whimsigoth aesthetic. And again, intention can go a long way. So think about how you layer it, how you style it can really make a difference. When it comes to green, I think green is one of the easier colors to have a strong association with dark aesthetics. Whenever it comes to green, or quite frankly, a lot of the cooler undertoned colors of the rainbow, green already has a strong association with witchcraft, monsters, villains. If you think about a lot of villains in mainstream media, whether it's a Disney movie, a cartoon, or the Wicked Witch of the West. Is it West? Think about green in movies, film, cinema, and how even green is associated with this idea of nature and decay. We see it in Beetlejuice. The way green is used in his hair and around his mouth, it literally has this unsettling look of decay. And no matter whether you go for a bright neon green or a dark saturated green in your hair, it already has an alternative look to it. And like mentioned, green already has this association with classic monster movies, witches. Green also has this look of unsettlingness, and I think it has to do with the idea of green can be a signal of poison or sickness, and that can be used to your advantage. My muse for green is my friend Desiree. She's also known as Wild Ass Bee in a lot of her social media. And when it comes to green, she never shies away from color in general, but one of the most iconic hair colors that I actually always remember her as, even though her hair is constantly changing, is the various ways she has done green. She has done it in a very saturated emerald hue. She has done it in an accent with purple, which by the way is my favorite color combination, is green and purple. And even her half green, half black hair was beautiful. She has this alternative look to it, but she does it already in a very colorful way. So whether it's green or any other colors, I highly recommend you look into Desiree's social media to get style inspiration from her. Okay, so we are getting into the slightly easier colors to style in a dark way because of the associations that it already has, and also how well it pairs with black. So next we're going to be talking about blue. Now again, blue already has a strong association with dark and alternative aesthetics. Whether it's a blue eyeshadow as we see on Elaine from The Love Witch, blue hair is also one of the easiest, well, I think whenever you color your hair a vibrant color in general, that already signals an alternative look. But when it comes to blue hair, we see it so many times in mainstream media, such as Pandora from Guitar Hero, or even wearing blue and black lace already gives off a dark aesthetic. Blue velvet, blue satin has a very Victorian feel to it. It's very romantic, if you will. My muse for blue is my friend AJ. She is a cinephile. She does a lot of photo shoots and a lot of artwork and movies that revolve around horror. And one of her favorite hues to use is blue. A lot of her styles actually revolve around a neon 80s feel to it. A lot of her inspiration comes from horror movies of the 80s, so it all goes hand in hand. She also currently has blue hair and she rocks it. So if you look at a lot of her current styles, they actually go perfectly with her blue hair, but also she implements blue into her style to tie back to her hair. And again, blue already has a strong association with dark themes of melancholy, blue ravens, and witchcraft. I'm not gonna lie, purple was the hardest. And not because purple doesn't have a strong association with dark aesthetics. It already does. And the reason why I found this tough was because there are too many ways to go about it. In this case, not a bad thing, but a very good thing too, a good problem to have. Even if you aren't going for a dark aesthetic, sometimes when you just wear a purple plaid, you look alternative. And I think why that is purple tends to have this association with witchcraft, with the unsettling, with things of the occult. A lot of villains have this combination of green and purple, as we see with Maleficent, or whenever we see witches in cinema, or even the way they're described in novels. If you look at purple through different fabrications, they also tend to easily have a darker theme to it. And Elvira, the queen of many dark aesthetics, even wore purple herself. For my muse is Dita Von Teese. There are actually, like I mentioned, too many muses, but I wanted to show Dita Von Teese because she actually wears a plethora of color in general. And I love how she has different various ways that she has worn different shades and undertones of purple. I think her background and her career as a burlesque dancer actually plays a lot into this. Much more sensual styles done in a very everyday wear look tends to have a darker feel to it and a great way to go about it. Whether it's wearing purple with corset details or a bustier or silk and velvet textures. And also this is another great way to go about a pinup aesthetic, just as Dita Von Teese. But we're not done. We're going to be talking about white. Now, when it comes to white, some may say it's easy to go for a dark aesthetic or a goth aesthetic with white because white goth already exists. And when it comes to the styles of white goth, it's a lot of Victorian aesthetics, a lot of cathedral motifs and imagery, but done so in white. So it's a lot of white lace, white corsetry. However, if no intention is behind it, white can come off in a different way. So again, I think intention, motifs, and fabrications and silhouette make a huge difference. Again, we see white in so many dark horror movies. It often represents taintedness in a good way. And when I say this, I mean it in a good way. If you watch my previous video talking about fantasy muses, I think white can be one of the greatest avenues to go for a possessed or haunted doll aesthetic or a dark siren look. White was even used in vampiric movies, such as Bram Stoker's Dracula. Again, it's how you wear it. I think also white can be done in a very witchy, occult way. Even Southern Gothic styles really heavily rely on white. My muse for, not the color white, but white dark aesthetics is Nick Shea. She's a photographer and content creator, and she wears romantic gothic white aesthetics, dresses, and even her home decor to match. I highly recommend you look into her Instagram. She actually shows her beautiful room that is decorated with white lace, and it definitely has a gothic feel to it while mainly using white fabrications. And again, if you are not feeling like white doesn't feel dark enough, go for roughly opulent layers and really lean into this idea of white being a ghostly absence of color. Let's talk about pink. Now, when it comes to pink, one of the most obvious ways to opt for a dark aesthetic is, of course, pastel goth or Tumblr aesthetics such as soft grunge. But I feel like when it comes to pink, there's actually a large array of ways to go about it, and I think pink actually pairs well with black quite perfectly. Whenever it comes to pink, it could be paired with red, it could be paired with black, purple. Pink is actually one of the soft hues that actually could be an accent to many styles, and it's a great way to add femininity to a dark aesthetic. One of my favorite brands right now is Hellcats, and they have these super beautiful colorful scarves that could be paired for a rockabilly style. They even have these spider and knife hair clips that you see right next to the headscarf that I highly recommend you look into. Pink, even in a saturated hue, can still read as a dark aesthetic. It actually can have a very rock and roll feel and grunge look to it. And my muse and brand that I recommend looking into if you want to dress pink in a dark way is Vixen by Michelin Pitt. Michelin Pitt actually has two brands, Vixen as well as La Femme Noire. But when it comes to the color pink, I think Vixen has the most variety. I also love that Michelin Pitt has an array of sizes, so she's very size inclusive. A lot of her styles are very retro inspired, so if you want to go for a rockabilly look or implement retro inspired details into your wardrobe, Michelin Pitt's a great place to look for. If you watched this whole video, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here, and if you are returning, thank you so much for staying and sticking along with me for this journey. I know I haven't posted a video in a really long time. Life has been super busy. My work schedule has been going up and down. If you are part of my Patreon, everything that I talked about, all the mood boards that was shown, I compile into a PDF and I save it over for my Patreon members so that they can keep it and have it for their own reference. And if you're part of my Patreon, that's also where I do life updates of if I ever go absent for long periods at a time, that's where I update on what's going on. Hopefully, I am back on schedule, and until next time, I hope you have a great week. Bye.